And we're back. So the sanctuary's in the shambles. They can't use their power because they're conserving energy. The workers are all rabble, 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 rabble. Negan, Negan, Negan. And there's someone duplicitous among them. Dwight. It's Dwight, in case you didn't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is kind of good. This is going to be a little bit helter skelter because one, Eugene figures out that Dwight is the duplicitous person. I assumed that Eugene was in on the plan, or at least knew what Dwight was doing to help the Alexandrians, but apparently not. He has only recently figured that out, and he has not said anything about it. Negan asked him at the end. It looked like it was going to go in the direction of figure out who the
rat is.
Who the rat is, or he's going to ask him if he was the rat, but it had nothing to do with that. He wants him to just figure out the Walker problem. So, okay, fine. And Eugene has not said anything about Dwight and his side job, his little side hustle. Then there's Simon and Dwight, who, Dwight steps up and he takes charge, which was a good thing. And he made some valid points, but I'm sure it was also to to serve his agenda in some shape or form.
Well, okay, so wait, you're talking about Simon right now? Or
no,
Dwight?
When Dwight was like, Regina, shut up!
Yeah, so that was really interesting. So a couple things. First of all, I've never seen Dwight, act like a badass in front of the other saviors. Normally he's the bitch of the bunch, right? I mean, he's normally just doing the bidding of Negan and doing basically everything that he possibly can to avoid having the other side of his face burned off. This time, he all of a sudden stands up and starts going into a leadership role the second the Negan is gone. And I think actually that was the thing that may have tipped off Eugene of what was going on, or vice versa. Because it's just so bizarre. I mean,
well, no, that didn't tip him off. Eugene was all about the thanks for supporting me and saying that her plan was stupid.
Well,
which it was.
But there was a lot of subtext though between underneath.
He didn't
that
know
thing.
until he saw that paint on that bag.
That's what I mean. Yeah, the paint on the bag.
Then that's when he stared at Dwight and did not blink.
Right. So what I'm saying though is I think he kind of had a hint, and then that was the confirmation of okay, that's I had a feeling, that's what he was thinking. So this is really interesting, right? This whole dynamic. There's two people. One of which used to be an Alexandrian, one of which is looking to become an Alexandrian, in the top hierarchical council of the Saviors, both operating as moles, and neither one of them have even admitted to one another that they're essentially double agents. So they didn't say it explicitly to one another when Eugene knocked on his door and offered him pickles, because apparently that's the way to charm your fellow double agent.
Choice cucumbers.
Yeah.
What do you call them? Choice cumbers? Whatever you say.
Something like that. But, you could tell, even though they didn't say it explicitly, they're kind of I get it. Yeah, you're not really one of these people either, you could tell that vibe was going
Dwight
on.
denied it. He was like, I only said the plan didn't make sense or something. He kept insisting that he wasn't protecting Eugene or anything or backing him up, just agreeing that it was a stupid plan. He kept his poker face. And then that's when Eugene bust out with his poker face with the
the middle of the meeting.
I felt like how come no one noticed that long ass stare he gave to Dwight? It was so obvious and blatant.
It was for
if I was sitting at that table, I'd been like, why is he staring at Dwight?
So here's another thing that I'm just curious about among the Saviors. Why the hell is this random woman Regina at the table and Arad is not, and she's standing in the background and we don't see her until 2/3 of the way through? What the fuck is going on with that?
I don't know, but I don't like it.
I'm very confused.
I don't like Arad, but I don't know who the hell Regina is, and I don't care. It should be Arad at that table.
Was there some kind of a falling out between Negan and Arad after the Olivia incident or something? He did like Olivia. Yeah. Oh yeah. He said he wanted to screw her brains out.
With her permission.
With her permission, and he was 50% more into her because of the fact that she slapped him. Negan's into BDSM.
See, Olivia should have came at him with her backhand, and he would have really been turned on. I would have knocked his socks off.
Yeah.
Come out with the pimp hand.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, so they're all falling apart. The other thing that's crazy that's going on with the Saviors right now is Simon, who up until this point, the first time that we ever see the Saviors at the end of season 6, Simon is like the one orchestrating everything
I thought
until
he was Negan's BFF.
he hits the door and says, "Let's meet the man." And he comes out, and there was even that whole thing that Negan said to Rick when he was on his knees, like, you have a right hand. Simon's my right hand man, and do you have one? And it's a whole lot of work if you don't. Blah blah blah, alluding that like Simon's his most loyal.
That's his number one
follower. And then so for the first time ever, in front of all the other high-ranking saviors, he verbally bitch slaps the hell out of Simon embarrassingly in front of all of them. He takes his bat and starts like whacking it on the table, and he's like, "Do I need to remind you who's in charge? This is about people." And then it like cuts to this shot of Simon like, it's about people, I'm sorry.
Isn't that such a strange thing to hear Negan? I mean, I know he's been saying it, but to hear him really enforce the it's about people and keeping as many people as possible. Like, he doesn't want to go and kill an entire,
Right. Which
means he's going to be pissed off about all those kingdom people dead.
Which goes back also to the fact that we've actually never seen there be a meeting of just Negan and the high-ranking saviors. We've seen interactions between them where, they show up and they're like carting another prisoner off to the other side of the sanctuary and they all kneel and do their like weird thing. We've never seen just a round table discussion of all of them, talking about how to handle a crisis. This is like a totally different thing that we've ever seen before with the saviors. And apparently Simon is not really the favorite of Negan's that we thought that he was, because not only does
well Negan's also under a lot of stress right now.
Correct, but I just thought that it was weird that he so quickly lowered the status of his supposed right-hand man in the eyes of everybody else. And then he almost does it again at the very end when he leads him and Gabriel up. He's like, "Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm in need of a shower," and all this other stuff. "And also, I need to talk to my right-hand man." He, like, points the bat through the crowd right at Simon, as if to say, like,
well, he saw that
we're going to have a talk because you're in trouble, mister.
Well, he saw that Simon had lost control of the situation.
He's terrible without Negan.
And then he was mad at Regina for killing one of the workers.
Going back to the thing, he doesn't want to lose people.
And in that sense, I mean, Rick's kind of on board now with not killing unnecessary people. But Negan really does. He does. If he had the option of not killing or having his people kill any of the soldiers of the Widow, the King, and Rick, he wouldn't. That's a difference.
Which is so interesting because despite everything and all the conflicts that they've had, both Rick and Negan are actually of the same belief at this point, which is that we shouldn't kill people unnecessarily.
Yeah. And actually, Negan says it best. "Oh, I don't mind killing people, but I want to kill the right people. Which is what Rick says.
Exactly.
Too, basically.
They're basically that was the thing that was so fascinating about this episode.
They're two sides of the same coin.
They're two sides of the same coin. They actually do want the same thing. They're just going about it in very different ways. I feel like that was kind of the point of this whole episode.
They want peace and structure.
Negan
just has more of an iron fist about it.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of this entire episode, I think. I want to know, I'm really curious as to see what Negan says to Simon, because up until this point, it was kind of implied that if Negan's not around, Simon has the control and the authority to do whatever he wanted. But the reality is that he has no control over the workers. The workers were about to
here's one key mistake I think that Negan's making. I know that he said it's an economy. However, if he had taken the approach Rick or Ezekiel and trained all of his workers to be fighters too,
like Rick did,
and gave them more equal footing, like this is mandatory. You all need to know how to kill walkers. You all need to know how to fight and defend this place because we all have to live here. Instead of just, you guys do the working and we will do the protecting because you guys aren't soldiers. Like, you need to make soldiers sometimes, at least in these times. Like, look at Carol. Look how far she's come.
This is true. And it makes me also wonder, like, why has Negan not at least attempted to make some of those workers into fighters? Is there a trial process where they can prove whether or not they're worthy of more training or not? I don't know how that whole thing works. I don't know when they recruit somebody how they decide who becomes a savior and who becomes a worker. That's yet to be explored.
Like, Morales was a worker. I mean, a savior, not a worker. So I mean, I really don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. That's kind of like unexplored, but that's sort of, I feel like, the direction of where the show is going, which is that the two leaders who have butted heads so heavily so far, they kind of end up balancing each other out because they really do want the same things at the end of the day. They just disagree heavily on how to get there.
It's becoming blurred lines.
It's becoming blurred lines, which is what makes this show so fascinating. Like I thought that the process of making us love and understand and identify with the governor was fascinating. This is like 50 times more fascinating. It's so much more complex, but it's the same thing where they're showing both sides. It's like now, after hearing the conversation with Gabriel and everything, it's like, oh, now I kind of understand where he's coming from, and now I'm conflicted about how to feel about him, and now I get the Savior's point of view.
I think Gabriel's going to be like the middleman to
the mediator
bring
between Rick.
Between
Rick and Negan.
He can talk both their languages.
Yeah.
And Rick and Negan will both listen to him.
That's totally true. That's a great point. This whole thing is fascinating. It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. We're seeing the insides of the sanctuary for the first time, like the guts of it, and I can't wait to see what happens. But for the rest of the season, especially before the season finale. Anything more about the Savior thing that's going on?
No.
I think that's about it. If you guys like our content, please subscribe below, right here somewhere where I'm pointing. Also follow us on Facebook at the Living Rochon. Sorry. Also on Instagram at RL Rochon, and the brand new website www.thelivingrochon.com. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.